Auntie Bev here. According to the U.S. Census of 1850, there were about 406,000 people who identified as mulatto in the United States. This was the direct result of enslaved black women being brutally raped by white male plantation owners, their family members, and overseers. Virginia.
Never listen to a woman with a wig on. Number one, when those censuses started in the mid 1800s, nobody could choose what they wanted to identify with. The census enumerator did. The census enumerator that came to your ancestor's house with the chalkboard, he was the one responsible for choosing whether you were a colored person or a white person. But as I keep stating in all of my videos, there's no such thing as a black person, there's no such thing as an Indian person, and there's no such thing as a white person. All of these are governmental fictions. That also includes the mulatto term. When geneticists do test on black Americans' DNA, they oftentimes run into private alleles. This means traits and characteristics that no other group in the world shares. And there was one specific group back in the day, you've probably heard of them. They were called the Red Bones. These were indigenous Americans that were classified as mulatto later. Copper-colored indigenous peoples, bronze-colored indigenous peoples with curly hair, flat feet, black hair, and hazel eyes, they all got grouped in that classification called mulatto and colored. Same with the Melungeon types who have tri-ancestry, and specifically in places like Georgia, Tennessee, and Alabama, along the hillsides, you had specific places where Scottish yeoman farmers would marry into the mother culture. When they're testing your DNA and then they try to compare it to quote-unquote Native American and West Africans, they aren't comparing your DNA to the Melungeons, or the Red Bones, or the Yuchi who have Proto-Indo-European still embedded within their language. They also conflate black European DNA and white European DNA because they were around the same area. For instance, your DNA test will say 2% Native American, 30% European, and 70% West African. But the genetic variance on the West African part of your DNA goes back 300,000 years. It's not even recent. In fact, there are studies talking about how South African Bantu groups are as different to so-called black Americans as Asians or Europeans. So let's stop making these broad claims here. Just because you don't know the full story doesn't mean you can go around trying to demonize white people for some shit that ain't even the full story.